chief twit has not wasted any time, Elon Musk, to make his takeover taken note of if people hadn't already. First, the firings of top staff, and then the letter to advertisers, and next, the new homepage for logged out users. But now, well, the larger debate on Twitter is about Twitter subscriptions. Amid reports of charging verified accounts, Musk quipped on Twitter today saying need to pay bills and cannot entirely rely on advertisers. Elon Musk also recently tweeted that the whole verification process is being revamped right now and suggested charging $8 per month for verified users. To talk more about this and to take a closer look, I am joined by strategist Lloyd Matthias, and he's a business strategist and investor. And we are going to discuss whether this move of Elon Musk. Well, Lloyd, thank you for joining me. Wanted to first start with, is this a desperate note that looks like, a leaf taken out of a very desperate how to manage a media business book where, you go with advertisers and subscriptions as your two main revenue sources. And Musk did make a very generous deal to buy Twitter, didn't he?
Thanks for having me on your show, Raksha. I think it is very interesting. Musk's keenness to monetize Twitter is completely understandable. He spent $44 billion to buy the platform and now take it private, so it's delisted. And pretty much, as he calls himself as the chief twit, I think he has a few points to prove. I think the first is to actually, reduce Twitter's overt dependence on advertising. Now, everyone knows that today more than 90% of Twitter's revenues come from advertising. Right. So therefore, one hopes he's hoping to actually move that dependence and make the platform slightly more financially viable by getting other elements of subscription. Right. Now, specifically on what is announced, I think some of this is a concern. The first thing that he talked about clearly was about the blue tick, saying that the blue tick would be a chargeable proposition. And there have been various points of view from $8 to $20 that have been raising. I think that's something that alters the basic character of the platform. The blue tick today at some level is a basic level of authentication. It tells the platform that you are you and I am me, that we can prove our identities. The other level, of course, is tells a lot of users that a blue tick user is somebody of some public relevance, right? Could be a journalist, a politician, a person with some degree of political relevance that begets the need for verification. The moment this becomes purely monetizable, I think it loses its value, right? Then when you look at a blue tick, you'll say, oh, he just could pay for it. And I understand other criteria are important. So I think some of these points need a little tempering, though early days yet. And given Musk's very temperamental, approach, I think a lot more of these things will happen initially. But I would wait for the dust to settle down. But I sincerely hope that a lot of these actions don't water down what makes Twitter such an addictive platform.
Absolutely, Lloyd. In fact, I was just about to come to that as the next point, that the verification ultimately is a central trust-building role for Twitter. So his entire proposal could erode that trust because, the platform threatens to spiral out of control right now with, this existence of bots on the platform. So Musk has always been very specific about how he does not want bots on the platform because then automatically his advertisers will not be interested to be on Twitter. So it's a bit of a, catch-22 for him, because if he starts charging his power users on Twitter with subscription, the point is to remove bots so that then more advertisers can come in. So can this be a win-win business strategy, or can it be a very lose-lose business strategy for him?
I think it's a bit of a high-risk strategy. So you're absolutely right that one of the big concerns he'd raised earlier, and one of the big concerns for advertisers, is the existence of a large quantity of bots, right? While Twitter officially is about 250 million users, a lot of advertisers recognize that a fairly reasonable amount of these would be bots, not real people, but someone just there to show the numbers for the platform. So advertisers are certainly interested in reducing the bots. At the same time, advertisers also bet heavily on the credibility of the platform. The fact that a lot of people come there
Cool.
because some of the most important people, some of the most important news are actually breaking on Twitter, right? All the world's best journalists, the heads of state, important sportsmen are all there on the platform, right? So the moment this balance is disrupted, I think advertisers will tend to be a little wary. Other red flag that I think Musk's attitude seems to be raising for Twitter is that he is fundamentally what he calls a free speech absolutist. His idea is that let everyone come on. There will be some degree of moderation, but basically believing that everyone's point of view needs to be aired freely. And that very often gives grounds for a lot of hate speech. And this is something that advertisers are very, very, very of. They don't want their platform, their brands to be seen in an environment where there's a lot of hate, negativity, anger, and such like. And I think that's the other danger he has to watch out for. So the idea of reducing bots is laudable. The idea of monetizing the platform beyond just advertising revenue is laudable. But how he does it, I think, needs a little bit of a watching, needs a little bit of a moderation. And right now, I'm afraid the signs aren't very great on that, Raksha.
Right, Lloyd, of course, and about the money aspect of it, I take all your points, and that is something that is what probably Musk is looking at. But, you know, we started with a $20 figure, which was not received very well by a lot of users. And today, when author Stephen King himself said that $20 is crazy and I will probably leave Twitter. Now, so when there's a management shift at any social media company, and it being this time with Musk, and somebody who is, you know, keen on transparency, free speech, all of that, but he is definitely going to make a big change when it comes to subscriptions, because he did say that, okay, if $20 is too much, how about $8? And while there were a lot of memers on Twitter who said, oh, you know, it's good, it's transparent, he's at least trying to consider. But is this a figure monetarily that business-wise a lot of users, for example, if somebody, as we started with the conversation with a trust building exercise, right? That you know that the person you're interacting with is the real person. So if that person's also expected to pay to be able to just be known as the real person on Twitter, then for that, isn't $8 also a big amount? If somebody who's already a known celebrity, and also because other competitive social media platforms are not charging anything for a person to be verified on Twitter. So for a creator or a personality or celebrity, is that $8 figure a bit much also?
I think the very fact that you put a monetizing price to something on credibility, I think waters it down. And very simply put, let's assume that today about 2% of all Twitter users worldwide are verified. Now let's assume that even a small fraction of them just refuse to pay out for that. What happens, right? Just for example, I'm saying, what if Mr. Bachchan says that I'm not going to pay whatever, whether it's $8 or 8 rupees, I'm refusing to pay for a blue tick, right? So his blue tick gets withdrawn. And guess what? Another spam comes in, creates a fake email ID and gets, calls himself Mr. Amitabh Bachchan. He might show whatever documentation. Let's assume that's some fraudulent documentation. And he's willing to put up that 8 rupees, that $8. And then you're going to have a blue tick Mr. Bachchan, who is not the Amitabh Bachchan.
Right.
What does it do to the credibility of the platform?
Absolutely.
Right? So that could spawn a whole lot of impersonations and could become very, very sticky in the long run.
Yes. Lloyd, thank you so much for raising such interesting points for our viewers. And we will circle back to this conversation once Musk actually rolls out the Twitter verification subscription rates. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you, Raksha.